Good morning, everyone. It's a great honor to be here today to share with you the key findings from our recent research. The topic is the efficacy and the safety of lower dose aspirin for primary and secondary prevention of cardiovascular disease. Okay, wait a minute. In the older adults, and it is an interim analysis of a multicenter prospective observational cohort study. And my name is Wang Xiting. I came from Peking University First Hospital, the Department of Geriatrics. Okay. Here's the content of this presentation, and let me begin by giving you the backgrounds. Cardiovascular disease, and we all know that it's short for CVD. It's remained the leading cause of death in China. And with our population aging rapidly, the burden of CVD is increasingly significantly. And low-dose aspirin, which is typically defined as 75 to 100 milligram per day, has been widely used for the primary and secondary prevention of the participants with established CVD or those with higher risk, high risk factors. So, however, it is also significantly associated with increased bleeding, especially in the elderly. But what about an even lower dose? Until now, there has been no solid evidence supporting the use of aspirin below 75 milligram per day. So this is exactly what our study aims to investigate. This study aims to evaluate the efficacy and the safety of a lower dose of aspirin for the primary and secondary prevention of CVD in Chinese older adults. And let me walk you into our methods. We conducted a prospective multicenter observational cohort study, which is called the lower dose aspirin for primary and secondary prevention of cardiovascular disease in the elderly, and which is short for LAPIS study. And this study was registered with the Chinese clinical trial registry and involved about 80 sites across 22 major cities in mainland China. And we enrolled patients aged more than 60 years old, and they were on long-term aspirin therapy for either primary or secondary prevention based on clinical assessment. And we excluded those with a history of aspirin-sensitive asthma or allergy to aspirin. And we also excluded the participants with a life expectancy of less than 3 years. So here is the flowing chart of LAPIS study. And the participants who met the inclusion and exclusion criteria were enrolled. And we collected the baseline data, including the dose of aspirin, the demographic information, the clinical information, and comorbidities, and concomitant prescription information, and laboratory tests. And we do not interfere with the dosage and the duration of aspirin therapy. And all the therapy of aspirin were determined by the treating physicians. And patients will be grouped based on their aspirin dosage, 50 milligram per day or less, and more than 50 milligram per day. Primarily, the standard. And in the end of the LAPIS study, we will analyze the efficacy and safety of aspirin in different doses group. And here is the schedule of the enrollment, follow-up, and assessments for LAPIS study. And after the screening visit, the participant will be followed up by the first 30 days, and then the third month, then every 6 months. And until the end of LAPIS study, all the participants will be followed up for at least 3 years. And here is the results of the LAPIS study. Between 2019 to 2023, there were about more than 7,000 participants were enrolled in the LAPIS study, and 3 of them lost to follow-up. Among them, about 2,070 persons were in the primary prevention group, and 4,951 participants were in secondary prevention cohort. And to ensure fairness in comparison, we use the propensity score matching to balance the baseline characteristics between the 50 milligram and the 100 milligram groups. And in the primary prevention cohort, propensity scores were estimated using logistic regression based on baseline characters that differ significantly between 50 milligram per day and 100 milligram per day aspirin group, including the age, sex, and current smoking or drinking, and the medical history of diabetes mellitus. And also including the concomitant medication of other antiplatelets and ACI, ARB, MRA, statin, and the kidney function, including eGFR and the total cholesterol, total lipoprotein cholesterol, and low density lipoprotein cholesterol. And after the PSM adjustment, there were no differences in baseline characteristics between the 2 groups. And we found no significant difference in the incidence of major adverse cardiovascular events between the 50 and 100 milligram per day before and after PSM adjustment, including MACE and unstable angina, non-fatal MI, non-fatal stroke, and any other component of MACE. However, when it comes to safety, the results were striking. The risk of any bleeding event was significantly lower in the 50 milligram group, with HR of 2.917, and similarly, the gastrointestinal adverse events were also reduced in the lower dose group. And here is the KM curve. The cumulative event rates of MACE were similar between the 2 different doses group, and the rates of any bleeding were higher in the 100 milligram per day aspirin group than in the 50 milligram per day. Now, for the secondary prevention group, those with established CVD, PCM were also used to adjust the difference between the baseline characteristics. And we use PCM to adjust the age and the sex and current smoking, drinking, and the medical history of established coronary heart disease, MI history, and unstable angina, or the person with PCI, CABG history, stroke history, and hypertension, diabetes mellitus, and the person with bleeding history. And we also adjust the concomitant use of other antiplatelets and anticoagulants, and the statin, PPI, eGFR, TCHO, LDLC, and the blood glucose. And We again saw no significant difference in MACE between the two dosage group after matching, but once again, the 100 milligram per day group had a significant higher bleeding risk with a HR of 1.473 for any bleeding and more gastrointestinal adverse events with a HR of 1.943. And we also performed a KM curve, and we can also see the same things in the secondary prevention. And in the end, we also performed a Cox regression analysis to identify factors associated with bleeding. And we found that the higher aspirin dose and the dyslipidemia and the history of hemorrhage and the concomitant use of other antiplatelets and anticoagulants were all independent risk factors for bleeding. In our study, we acknowledge several limitations. First, this was only an interim analysis of LAPIS study and with a relative short follow-up period. And the selection bias could not be excluded. Regarding the endless analysis, approximately 20% of the cohort completed the 24-month follow-up period, and the median follow-up period is only 184 days. And half of the individuals were in the initial follow-up period, which might diminish the long-term effect estimates. And the limited follow-up time were inadequate to observe the bleeding and the cardiovascular events of interest. Therefore, the findings of the interim analysis support the continuation of long-term follow-up studies to determine the effects and the risks of aspirin. And the second limitation is most bleeding events were minor, and only 6 and 1 of 721 patients suffered from major and fatal bleeding events during the follow-up. And third, we use PSM to control for baseline differences between the different dose of aspirin group, which may have resulted in a loss of some samples and end-up events. And even after adjusting for potential confounders, controlling for all factors influencing the outcomes remains challenging. Fourth, we did not assess the effects on outcomes between long-term aspirin users and aspirin-naive individuals, as the cardiovascular benefits of aspirin may continue to provide additional clinical advantages beyond the current median duration. Finally, it was inconvenient for some patients to visit hospital for face-to-face interview because of the COVID-19, and follow-up via phone or WeChat may have influenced the reporting of endpoints events. So additional data from long-term follow-up of LAPIS study are required to validate our findings. And finally, let me summarize the conclusion. Our study shows that among older adults, daily aspirin dose of 50 milligram per day is as effective as 100 milligram per day in preventing cardiovascular disease, whether for primary or secondary prevention. But more importantly, the 50 milligram per day is significantly safer. It is associated with a lower risk of bleeding and gastrointestinal events. So these findings suggested that 50 milligram per day aspirin might be a more balanced and beneficial option for elderly populations who need long-term aspirin therapy, especially when we consider the trade-off between efficacy and safety. So in closing, I would like to thank all the patients, researchers, and medical staff who participants in the LAPIS study. And I hope our research contributes to more personalized and safer use of aspirin in our aging population. And thank you very much for your attention.